Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for an International Women's Day event hosted by our RBC team. My name is Sonia Siddiqui, and joining me today are these wonderful ladies, and I'll give you a chance to quickly introduce yourselves. So we'll start with Vivian. Oh, Vivian's stuck, I guess. Okay, so maybe Shweta and Shri, do you want to introduce yourselves quickly?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Shweta Kola, and I'm from India. I moved to Canada a few years ago, and I've been with RBC for the last 4 years.
Thank you. And
Hi,
Shri,
everyone.
yourself, just a quick introduction because we'll be going over your slides in a bit as well.
Hi everyone, I am Shri. I'm from India as well. Came to Canada in 2017 and have been with RBC since.
Thank you. And Catherine?
My name is Catherine. I came to Canada a long time ago in 1988.
Wow.
And I've been with RBC for 9 years now.
Awesome. Thank you. And Vivian?
Oh, hi. My name is Vivian. I'm the Senior Manager for RBC Inclusive Recruitment. I came to Canada 15 years ago, 16 actually, in 2003.
Thank you. Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, ladies.
So welcome, everyone. I know you're from all over the world, so we have this special design slide to welcome everyone to today's special webinar for our International Women's Day. So if you can pass on to the next one. I'm just going to talk a little bit about RBC first and our commitment to diversity and inclusion. Here's a picture of me, just a brief introduction of myself. I came to Canada in 2003 and I started my HR career as a volunteer. In my current role, it's quite rewarding and humbling because this role allows me and my team to go to the different diverse communities and operate practices different underprivileged communities, especially those who have some barriers in terms of employment, which include newcomers to Canada. And as an immigrant myself, I do understand the challenges like language, networking, lack of networking, or lack of social community experience. It's always been my passion to try to help as many newcomers as possible to try to launch your career. Hopefully within RBC, but if not, hopefully we can provide some advice in your journey looking for a job. That's a little bit about me. So I'm going to go on to talk a little bit about RBC. Sonia, if we could go to the next slide.
Thank you, Vivian. Is it okay if we turn your camera off? Because I think your bandwidth is slow and we're not able to hear you properly. And if you can wear headphones, maybe that will help with the voice quality.
Is it better now? I just turned my camera off.
Yeah, it is better, but if I think headphones will make it clearer if you can do that.
Okay.
So if you have headphones, but like your voice is clear. But Shweta, we'll move on to you until Vivian's getting her headphones.
Sure.
Okay.
So, like I introduced myself, I moved here a few years ago. I came here as a student, and then after my MBA, I joined RBC straight out of college into its strategy and transformation program. And I've been in the in-house consulting team ever since. I've really liked my time here at RBC, especially being in the presence of many women leaders that I really respect and value being around. And ACCES has been a huge partner in promoting that message of diversity and welcoming new people to Canada. So I'm very happy to partner with ACCES again.
Thank you, Shweta. And moving on to Catherine.
Hey, hi everyone. So my name is Catherine, and I said earlier I came to Canada in 1988, and I was very young. I was a kid. So my parents were newcomers to Canada. So I went to university here, and then when I graduated, I've always stayed in the financial industry. And back in 2010, that's when I joined RBC Capital Markets. So my current role is I'm a VP. I'm in charge of technology and operations for the Global Research Department in the capital markets business. I'm also a co-chair of a group called RBC Mosaic, and the group focuses on helping newcomers and visible minorities thrive and then also career advancement within the bank. And I'm also a 2017 recipient of the World in Capital Markets Emerging Leaders Award Program.
That's a pretty big deal, Catherine. Congratulations.
Thank you, Catherine. And Shri.
Hi, everyone. So as I was saying, I moved to Canada in the year 2017, and I was able to integrate into Canada and the workplace here because of amazing leaders that you are with here, Shweta, and other people that I have met after moving to Canada, and also the program that I was with ACCES Employment itself. I was in the Leadership Connections cohort of 2017, and that's how I met RBC, and I've been with the Auto Finance division doing market strategy ever since.
Awesome. Thank you, Shri. And it's great to know that you've been through one of our programs as well. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
So, Vivian, are you still there? Hi, Vivian, can you hear us? No. Oh, I think we lost Vivian there.
I think she probably dropped off. But I think maybe we just wish everyone happy Women's Day on behalf of RBC. RBC is taking it pretty big this year in Canada with a very bold aim of speaking up for inclusion. In fact, I just came from Women's Day event where we had external speakers come up and speak about the confidence code for women and how it matters along with competence. And I'll see if Catherine has anything to say about what RBC is doing today.
So RBC, I have to say that RBC and even the financial industry as a whole has been doing a lot for women in the past few years. Like the Women Initiative started decades ago, but I have to say that in the past few years, we really saw some significant movement in many banks in Canada. They have their like Women in Capital Markets group. And then the groups are focused on helping women in the industry to advance their career, because as you know, we're all in a very male-dominated industry. So having like peers and women that understand the culture, and even having allies, male partners, to help us advance our career is something that we're really focusing on. And RBC has done a very, very good job in the past few years to promote that within the bank.
Absolutely. I actually just heard a statistic from our CEO, Dave Mackay, that our first woman employee was hired in 1934.
Wow.
And almost 40% of our senior leaders are women executives now. So that's really good news, but not great yet. And like I say, the work needs to go on. Do you want to give a happy Women's Day message?
Yeah, I'm really happy to be in company of such amazing women, and I hope all of you who are planning to come to Canada, you have a great journey here. You have the support of organizations who are promoting diversity and other women leaders to support you and help you and guide you in your journey here. Happy Women's Day to you all.
Yeah, and the theme for Women's Day this year internationally is better balance. We've gone through some very disruptive moments which were very important, like Me Too, etc. And just aiming for better balance at workplace comes very timely for us. So RBC is all in, and we hope that you guys show up with your full potential and competence to welcome this all in and make the best of the situation. All right.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you. I think Vivian's back on now. Vivian, are you able to hear us? No. Okay. So maybe we'll get into the discussion. I'm not sure if you guys can start without Vivian, and I'll try to troubleshoot her on the side.
Of course. So maybe what we can start is kind of describe our own personal journey. Is that a good start spot?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so maybe I'll start first. So as I said earlier, I came to Canada 30 years ago. So I was a very young kid. So I have always been in the financial industry, but I wasn't really focused and I wasn't very ambitious in having a career. And that all changed when I joined RBC Capital Markets back in 2010. So it's only in RBC that I felt the spark, that I felt that, oh, there's actually opportunities here. Women can actually do more than just having a decent, good job. So this is where I started being more focused and more ambitious with my career. And then within my almost 9 years here, I really had some significant progression. So I'm really thankful for that. So passing over to you.
That's very true. I think I want to carry on that part about feeling more ambitious in the company of women, or just seeing more women in senior positions. That's very true for me. One of my first meetings when I moved to Toronto and joined RBC was with a woman leader who said, I am unapologetically ambitious. Unapologetically ambitious. And that blew my mind, because until then I never admitted to myself that I was ambitious. It was just about, okay, getting good grades or getting a good job or marrying well, that's about it. But having a professional ambition it never occurred to me that it could be a real thing. So it's only after I met that senior leader for breakfast that I was like, her claiming to be that and her claiming that I have zero tolerance for bullshit and I just want to do good and be good and let people recognize me for that really opened my mind about how I can project myself and how I can contribute to the success of any place, be it the company or my personal life, etc. So it's so true when they say companies that hire more women do better financially.
And my success in Canada has been because of great people that I have met through networking. So I started off my journey doing coffee chats and getting to know people here and opening myself up to the culture here. And what I realized is when I was being really open about my vulnerabilities, that I was new here, I did not have knowledge of the industry, I did not have knowledge of the culture and workplace ethics here. It is the people here, they were so welcoming and they were able to share their experiences. One of them, one of the people I met is Shweta, and she has been mentoring me ever since, and she's really helped nurture that confidence in me. And I already had that ambition, but she gave me that direction, and she was able to make me raise my hand for opportunities and promote my self-development. And that is something that I'm really thankful for. There are other women leaders that I look up to in the organization and learn these qualities from and try to overcome my, the fears that I have in my head and being able to achieve those goals and ambitions I set out to.
Yeah. I do want to highlight people like Vivian Lee, who's our moderator today. She's a senior manager for recruitment who champions diversity and inclusion. She's the one who's going out there and finding people who are diverse, who have that potential, building partnerships with organizations like ACCESS, and making RBC a more diverse place, respectful of all its potential. Yeah.
One thing I did want to note is when I moved to Canada, the biggest fear we had was that we did not have Canadian work experience. And that is something that I have not experienced at all. When I met people here, and now the manager who's hired me, they've not once questioned that, you didn't have Canadian work experience. It's the knowledge. They're so inclusive. They understand we bring experiences from different parts of the world, and that is what they're looking for, and they're really welcoming of that.
Hello, I'm back in. Can everybody hear me?
Hey,
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. The connection was lost, but when I was trying to plug in my my headset, and I lost the audio connection. But happy to be back. I will try to get onto the webcam, but I'm able to talk now. So where we are at.
So we just introduced ourselves and wished everyone a happy Women's Day, and now you're right in time to talk about RBC and its brand.
Yeah, so we're on the
absolutely.
slide.
Do we have the RBC slide open?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, amazing. So I'm just going to touch a little bit about RBC. As you are all seeing on the slide that we're Canada's #1 bank and the number one brand actually for a lot of years. We just reclaimed actually we're the largest financial institution in Canada, not only in Canada but also globally. And because we operate globally in 37 countries and we have over 80 employees globally, diversity and inclusion is a very important part of our overall strategy and our value. So we are Canada's best diversity employer as well as the best place to work. And I think I'm going to move on to the next slide because it was showing there is very self-explanatory. Sonia, if we could move on to the next slide. I'm trying to because I don't have access to the webinar, what's showing, but I have the slide on my end. I'm just going to talk a little bit about diversity in RBC because today is International Women's Day. I'm going to touch a little bit more on the women's side, but definitely in general, we're very committed. Like I said, in my role, we have a whole team going out to different diverse communities and try to share our commitment to including newcomer, including women, including persons with disabilities, and we have Indigenous peoples in Canada, and also our commitment to the LGBT community. In a nutshell. So I want to ask you, maybe you cannot answer it loud, but take a wild guess of women's representation in RBC. I know what's showing up there, we have 45% of women representatives, but do you know what's the percentage of women's represent? Maybe our guests can have a wild guess, even though you work in RBC, maybe you don't know the stats. Do you know? Anybody want to take a wild guess?
Oh, we have the slide in front of us, Vivian.
Oh, you have it. No, I mean, so 65% of the women are executive level, but actually the women representation in the RBC's workforce is over 60%. And we also serve our communities in 200 languages. And I know that this webinar is about work and employment, right? And we actually have the hiring principle of hire from the community to serve the community, which is why we are able to serve our communities in so many different languages. Yeah, so that's in a nutshell about our commitment. We, from the top of the house, our CEO, Dave Mackay, is the Chief Diversity Leadership Council Chair, and everybody that's reporting, our OC and GE members, they all are part of our Diversity Leadership Council. Underneath, we have some grassroots representation from each different groups and the different countries representing different diversity groups. So we have around 24 employee resource groups, which help people from different diverse communities to build a connection and network and develop career within RBC. So that's a little bit about diversity, and I know that we have talked, everybody has got the opportunity to introduce themselves. And since this is a special topic about women and how we're enabling and empowering women to develop their career in Canada and also in RBC, so I think we might as well just start our conversation in terms of celebrating you yourself as a woman, but also in terms of the career journey. So I will start with Surrey because it seems that you're the newest member of RBC, and why don't you tell us a little bit about your job searching journey?
Absolutely, Vivian. It is still fresh in my memory. It's been 1.5 years, but then I still remember the first few months after I landed in Canada. But then the preparation for the job search in Canada started way before I moved here. I started researching online as much as possible about what to expect when I moved here. I very quickly figured out that networking is one of the most successful ways to find job opportunities here. But then I was not really sure how I would approach it. I was not confident about how I would present my skills, and that was something that I was not very comfortable with before moving here, right? So I started out practicing just meeting people in the industry, writing to them on LinkedIn and other media, and asking them to give me information about Canada, the industry here, specifically the place I was looking for jobs in, so that I was equipping myself with the required knowledge that would help me in building my confidence. And that was my journey. So I started equipping myself with knowledge and then moved to building my confidence. Then when I was meeting newer people, I was able to explain to them as to how I was relevant here, how much knowledge I had of the industry here, and how I was able to match my skills to the requirements here. And that is how my journey began here. And also with the Leadership Connections program that I was part of in 2017 with ACCES, that helped me really understand little nuances of the Canadian culture, and also build connections with different organizations here. These two were really key in establishing my career and starting my journey here.
So, I'm very curious because you're the newest member to join RBC, and also you just came to Canada just a few years ago. What was your expectation about Canada, and what surprised you when you arrived?
One of the biggest fears I had was that I did not have any Canadian work experience. And I was really worried about that. And once I came here and moved here, I talked to people in the industry, and then it didn't really seem to matter if I had work experience within Canada, as long as I had knowledge of the differences and knowledge of the industry, and I also knew about how to apply my skills here, and I was able to communicate that I knew all of this. That was sufficient enough. So that was a good surprise for me, that it did not matter that I did not have Canadian work experience.
Okay, so how about, so I will leave your story at now, and then I'm going to go to Sweza. So when you, I read a little bit about your bio, and you're the first person in your community that came to Canada and attended Canadian university. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and what you find surprising to you, and how Canada has been treating you since you came?
Sure, it is. So I am the first person in my community to ever have moved out of India, which meant that we did not really have any precedence or information other than what the TV or movies showed us about how Canada or America were, which was very different, again, from what I actually experienced here. So when I came in, it was a blank slate. I came in with absolutely no misconceptions or conceptions. I came here to study, and that was what I wanted to focus on. I was pleasantly surprised by the diversity here in Canada when I moved here. So I think in my head, I was just expecting lot of a single raced people, but it was not the case at all. And it really helped that there were multiple races and cultures here, because the acceptance becomes a lot more faster. And people are not feeling as scared about newer faces, newer cultures that come in. So that was a very welcome thing into Canada for me. The other thing was, because I came as a student, the whole educational system was very, very different. Like simple things such as back home in India, we address our professors and teachers as teacher or sir or madam, and here we would address them by their first name. I couldn't do that. Like through my whole MBA program, I remember I would address every professor as sir, and they would every single time tell me, just call me by my name. My name is Tim. So those kinds of simple things stood out. But what stood out for me though is just the potential of possibilities that were around. Even though I was a student, I had the opportunity to work, to reach out to people who were working part-time, full-time, understand the industry, just how different the way work is here. It's not just your grades that show, but it's also how you are as a person, how your attitude is, how you're able to mingle and connect with other people around you. All those things matter when you move to workforce. So those things stood out to me, and obviously all the help I received all through. Like my job came through very unexpected quarters. I was attending a leadership conference that I was nominated by one of my professors, and at the table that I was sitting was a senior RBC leader that I did not know at that time, and I was just engaged in very thoughtful conversations, challenging them as a student, being very vocal about challenges newcomer students were facing, etc. And the leader later tells me that that is what impressed her, that I was very strong and confident and also open about challenging people and notions, and so she wanted to hire me, right? So that's how my journey into RBC happened.
Thank you. That's very interesting because coming as when I was a newcomer coming to Canada, I had a lot of perceptions about what Canadian life is going to be like, but I had expected some kind of difficulties and challenges, but to me, it was still a very big culture shock because I came from China, and in those days, we didn't even have, in China, credit card wasn't a very big thing because we were using a lot of cash and the debit cards. So when I came here, I remember when I went to another bank actually, and I tried to open a bank account, and they were asking for my driver license and the credit card information. It was extremely frustrating. I said, I just arrived here. I don't have a driver license and I don't have any credit history. I'm sure a lot of newcomers can relate to that, right? And luckily, and there was an RBC branch just beside it. I went there. I was welcomed with my own, mother tongue, because there were some people who could speak Mandarin, which was very reassuring because when you discuss your financial situation, you want to speak. A lot of people prefer to speak in their mother tongue. So that's why. So I have been with RBC as a client since I arrived in Canada, and luckily I was able to join as an employee and doing a lot of work now to help newcomers and launch their career and start their life here in Canada. So I'm going to ask Catherine, because your story is a little bit different, right? Because you came here with your parents. And how was your experience when coming here as a teenager? Was there a lot of culture differences that you need to go through and build your confidence, both as an immigrant and as a teenager girl?
I would say that when I first came to Canada, I didn't really have a choice because I just came along with my parents. But it was a culture shock because if you have seen pictures or movies of Hong Kong, it's a very diverse city. It's kind of like the New York in Asia. And then when I first came here in the late 80s, it was all farmland. Like there's really not much around. So that was my biggest culture shock. And then in school, it was so long ago, but somehow I survived. I just remember in math classes, we were doing math, and I was like, oh, this is so easy. This is what I learned years ago. back in Hong Kong. So school was relatively easy to handle. But I would say that even though I grew up here, I went to university and have a pretty a standard Canadian life. Like it's the culture, right? Because I am from a Chinese family, very traditional. So even when I was growing up and when I went to university, like I said earlier, I wasn't really ambitious. And because my parents were newcomers, they knew nothing about the country, they knew nothing about other industries or how to find jobs. So it was just kind of like, oh, you have to go to university, find a job in a bank, and then you're good. So that's exactly what I did. And then I have worked for a few different banks before landing in RBC Capital Markets. So I would say that it was really lucky for me to land a job in RBC Capital Markets, because when I was working for the other banks, I honestly didn't see a career path. It was more like a job for me, and that was it. But when I came to RBC Capital Markets, I was able to participate in many networking events, like you said. And then also, I would say that RBC is a really wonderful bank. If you really put in the good work, if you have very good work ethic, then the opportunities are endless. It's really just a matter of finding out what you want to do and how to get there. And there are many people within the bank who's very helpful, who wants to help other peers. And then even my personal direct manager, he has been a mentor for me for the past years. That he would guide me into, hey, where do you want to go? How do you advance your career? And then even joining events like this and other networking events really helped me progress my career. So one theme that I've been hearing in this webinar is confidence. So confidence is very important, and it's for everyone. Like for women, especially for women, because for us we worry a lot. So we always think about, are we doing things the right way? Do I have all the qualifications before applying for a job? So having that confidence and knowing that, hey, I've got the education, I've got experience, and now it's just a matter of practicing that and communicating that to potential hiring managers. Because if you think about the Canadian culture, we really focus on people. I don't look at a resume and then hire a person. I read a resume to see if the person has the skills that I'm looking for. It could be soft skills, it could be technical, but it really matters when I meet the person, just to see, hey, if this person is a good fit for my team, for the company, and if we can all work together. So I would say that my advice will be really focus on how you present yourself, because your level of confidence and how well you can communicate your skills, which are transferable, will make a big difference when it comes to job search.
Thank you, Catherine. You touched on so many great points. You mentioned about, let's start with the confidence, because as a woman in capital markets, I know, a lot of people know that capital markets, in the current situation or environment still, there are way more men than women, and for different reasons, right? A lot of women may decide not to pursue a career in capital markets because of the work-life balance they're trying to achieve in their personal life. But it still can be, intimidating for a woman, especially at the executive level, like in yourself, in your position. And to add that, you are from an immigrant family, and also English is not your first language. So throughout your career path, how did you build the confidence, and what advice do you have for the women out there listening and watching this webinar in terms of as someone whose English is not their first language, and as a woman, if you want to build a very successful career, in a lot of times maybe there are more male in the group than female. Where should they get started?
I would say experience definitely helps. So the longer you're in the industry, then you build up your experience and your confidence. And even for me, even though that I've been here for 30 years, I have a very strong accent when I speak English. And every week there's always a word or phrase that I don't understand. And I have to ask my husband and for him to explain that to me. So I would say that one tip is don't worry about if you feel that your English is not perfect or if you have an accent, because in Canada, we all came from other countries. So we all have an accent. So as long as you speak decent English, the other person can understand, that is good enough. So you don't really have to worry about that. because I know for many people that might be the first fear is, oh, I don't want to speak because I'm worried that the other person won't understand me, or if I'm not representing myself the way that I want. And on average, the average Canadian is very, sorry, my laptop just kind of went. Oh, can you guys still see me or no?
We can hear you.
I can
Oh,
hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, I think my laptop went to a sleep mode. Yeah. Sorry about that. Oh. So I would say in capital markets, it is very male dominated. But then, like I said earlier, in the past few years, there's so many groups within the bank, and even as an industry, like it's an organization called Women in Capital Markets, and all they do is to help women in the industry to advance their career. So I would say right now is really the perfect time if you really want to get into the finance industry, especially for women or from another ethnic background, because there are many programs and there's many push in all the banks and as an industry itself to promote talents like us.
And I know, Catherine, you're also a member of a Capital Markets Mosaic, right, which helps newcomers, including women and newcomers, to find jobs and develop their career in capital markets, right?
Yes. So I'm one of the three co-chairs that it's organizing. So it's actually a bank initiative. So it's an RBC initiative. There's many different chapters because, as you know, RBC has many different businesses. But just in the capital market space, like there's really a big push from top down from our CEO that, hey, we really want to maintain our talents and attract talents with diverse backgrounds. So this is why you will see there are many like networking events, there are many workshops and programs that it's tailored to our group for us to advance our career within the industry.
Yeah, so as a woman who works in RBC and work in Canada, I feel a lot of times very privileged because all this amazing opportunity that's given to us and all the, the senior management and also the entire culture at RBC. There's so much support provided to women in their advancing their career. And I know Catherine mentioned a little bit about mentorship, but I'm going to switch the conversation to Swaza and Surrey because I think that you guys have a great, from reading your bio, Surrey got the RBC job through the mentorship with Swaza. So would you guys be able to share a little bit about your experience in terms of mentoring? And the importance of mentoring? Yeah.
Yeah, Vivian, just before that, I want to just say a couple of points about the language accent piece because it was a very important point that I had in YouTube. When I came new, my English was good. Like I studied in an English medium school all my life. But when I came to the university, my professors, I could understand nothing. They were all speaking English, but I could understand nothing because they were just so fast, right? So it was very overwhelming and intimidating to me to be in that environment around people who could speak English at that speed or in that different accent. And I'll fail if I do not admit that it was very scary. And I want to say that I took a few measures to try and adjust that because this was back in school. I took permission from the professors to record the audio of the lectures and listen to them and then go back and understand what they said, etc. Slowly, I started getting used to their English, but I do want to say that it was very intimidating. So anybody who is thinking that, oh, it's going to be all cakewalk, is not. You will face all those initial challenges, but you have to be confident. And one of my mentors here in Canada said this to me, which changed my whole perspective about how I approach this language. She said, as newcomers, as important it is for you to ensure that the other person understands you. So you adjust your accent, you adjust your speed, you adjust your language. It is equally important for the other person, which is a Canadian local, to ensure that you understand what they are saying. So they have to ensure that they speak correctly, that you can understand it. So it's putting the onus on both the communicators to make sure that they understand each other. So all that is to say that just don't get overwhelmed or intimidated too much. Get used to the language. It will take some time, but it is a journey. It won't be like 10 out of 10 the first day that you land here.
Yeah, that's a great point. I remember when I first came to Canada, and my son grew up here, right? So I asked my son to correct my pronunciation, and he would joke with me and laugh at me. He said, Mom, where do you want me to start?" I was like, okay, so it doesn't seem to be getting anywhere, but it is through your personal journey, and you continue building that confidence. And understanding that it's about your communication skills. It's not about your accent, because the accent is part of who you are. There's never going to be a day that you're going to change who you are, right? So it's very important to embrace who you are, and I understand, okay, I have an accent, but I can still do a good job. I still have the skills and the experience required to do that good job. So that is the confidence that everybody needs to have as an immigrant.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
So now we'll move on to the mentoring conversation you were talking about. So I want to go back to the time I met Sri. I met her through a colleague who came to me and said, hey, I met this Indian woman from ACCES through another networking platform called 10,000 Coffees. And he said, she's a real keener. I think it'll be great if you meet her, because I think you'll like her and you will be able to help her out. I said, sure, set us up. And then I think we had our first conversation over a phone call. And from her talk, I could see that she really wanted to get out there and do something, right? It was not just sit and wait for things to happen, but someone who's out there trying to create opportunities for herself. That stood out to me. And she was very clear about her asks, about her direction in life. She knew what field she wanted to get into, what kind of roles she was interested in. And that made it a lot easier for me to sit with her and strategize job search plan, and then go get herself a job, right? So she was from the outset a keener, a very observational person, and a very proactive person who was an initiative taker. So I will not say that she was never, I don't know, scared or anything, but I'll always say that she never showed that she was scared. At least she was always confident. She was very open. She needed a little bit of polishing for the professional world out here, just Canadian adjustments, but otherwise she is here because of who she is and what she brings to the table. And since then, we have had a very mutually benefiting mentoring relationship. We connect every month, again, initiated by her. We have our takeaways, and it's worked very well for us so far. You know that?
Yes. When anybody new moves to Canada, they're leaving everything, all their life behind, and they're moving here to start a new life, to find new opportunities for themselves. And I was in those shoes 1.5 years ago, right? And it is a lot of pressure to take. One, you're looking for housing, you're figuring out other things, settling down here, you're looking for employment. And it's just not easy to handle all of that by yourself. And yes, I was ambitious. I knew where I wanted to go. But it becomes so much easier with having a mentor. And Shweta has been so helpful, just channeling my thoughts in the right direction, and pushing me just beyond my boundaries, and so that I am getting out of my comfort zone, and I'm able to achieve my goals. And then she's also been helpful in the sense that I was always, she said that I appeared confident, but it is only because I was having these conversations with her where I was telling her about my vulnerabilities, and it made me more comfortable with myself. I just started accepting, my vulnerabilities, and that is what helped improve my confidence. And I was able to project that with anybody else I was talking to. And when I'm giving interviews, all of that I was able to project that confidence during interviews, and that's what helped me a lot. And those conversations with mentors do help release pressure off yourself and channel your thoughts.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I think we touched a lot of very important points, both for immigrants and for women immigrants today. We have 10 minutes, and I think maybe it's better to leave those time for people to ask questions, because there might be some interesting points that our audience want to explore further, or some points that we haven't touched about women and as a women immigrant, how we can help. So I'll pass back to Sonia. Sonia, if you could look at the questions and post those back to our panel.
Thank you so much. So there's, we're hearing great things from all the women here. Marta, you have an age-related question. I am not sure how you're referring to it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? So Marta, I think is concerned about she says that she's very glad that everyone's done so well in Canada and Canada's had so many opportunities, but she thinks that she still has that stigma of age. Is there anything that you can speak to, any of you ladies?
Vivian, as a hiring manager, do you want to weigh in on this one?
Sure, because in Canada, we have very specific employment equity or employment law, which actually prevent us from any discrimination, including age. So there are people, so when I first came to Canada, I went to school, and there are people who were in their 40s and the 50s, and they decide to have a career change. So they came back to school to really receive the education they need. And in terms of workforce, from working in HR and diversity, we never ask people's age. It's all about your passion, your skill, and your experience for the job you're applying for and you're interested in. So I think that is something, sometimes we have a barriers or some kind of bias towards ourselves to say, hey, because I'm a woman, because I'm old, maybe I'm not good enough for that job. So that's the first step, is to remove that barrier for yourself and try to pursue what you're looking for.
That is true, because I remember I did meet a few ACCES clients who had moved to Canada pretty recently, who were easily in their 40s, and they were worried about the same thing. It took them some time, but they are in pretty good positions right now, professionally, very gainfully employed. So I think it might take time for you to get out of that and find a suitable job, given that you have certain experience. But like Vivian said, Canadian equity laws about professions are very strict, and no one is allowed to discriminate against you because of your age.
Thank you. The next question I have here is from Dina. This is for Shri. She wants to know, you spoke about the efficiency of networking at the beginning of your journey. What are the means that you use to reach out to relevant people? She's saying that LinkedIn doesn't always work. She's been here for 2 months, and she also wants to know how long it took you to start off the job in the market here.
Right. First question about the networking bit, the different platforms I used. Yes, I wrote to multiple people on LinkedIn where I felt that their profession was similar to the one that I was aspiring for. The response rate was not as great as I would have loved it to be. That's probably because people are really busy, and LinkedIn is only used only professionally, and they would come back to it only when they're looking for another job. So I tried different platforms, like Shweta was mentioning. So I did create a profile for myself on this platform called 10,000coffees.com. I observed that more people on that platform were open to coffee chats, open to meeting new people and networking, and they were more active on that platform. And that's how I was able to get a few coffee chats. And each coffee chat I had, one principle that I learned early in my networking days was that every person I met, I asked that person to introduce me to another person. So that's how my coffee chats kept growing and my network kept growing here. And it just takes a little bit of time. I'd be patient. You're here for 2 months, and it'll take some time. It took me about 3.5 months to finally start working with RBC, but it all happens very quickly, and you will not realize things will work out for you very soon.
I'm going to put Shri on the spot here and say that she recently wrote a blog post about how to network, or the lessons she learned networking in Canada. She hasn't published that on LinkedIn yet, but it's a very, very useful one. I went through it. So on the public platform, I'm going to encourage her, push her to publish it, publish it on LinkedIn so that you can read it and probably gain insights from that too. Follow her on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. I'll try to share that on LinkedIn and the experiences that I have with you all. So if there's
Thank you,
anything that you
Shri.
find.
Do tag Access Employment so we can share
Yeah,
that as well.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
And
Shweta.
and Tudesha has a question. I guess this is more of an access question, but maybe RBC can help as well. She's aware of Triac mentoring program that we work with.
Yeah.
She also wants to know if there's any other programs. We do have this program called Connectors, and once you're here, you can come and visit our Brampton location to meet with the rep who takes care of the Connectors program. But a lot of people are also asking, are there any other networking or mentorship opportunities at RBC, especially for women?
So internally, we do have a lot of groups where we encourage networking. We have something called Advancing Women in Leadership Committee that ensures that happens for women employees. Externally, I say we participate in quite a few industry women events and committees. I want to also highlight one of the RBC ventures that's going to be launched soon. It's called Arrive In, arrivein.ca. Arrivein.ca is one of RBC ventures where they are looking to resolve a lot of challenges newcomers might face, one of which is mentoring. So they're going to map one-on-one mentoring to existing RBC employees or outside RBC people to make sure that you get a mentor from your field of your choice. So that might be another thing to look up.
Thank you. All right, so a lot of people are saying great advice here. And Shri, there's a question specifically for you. What made you choose the Leadership Connections program over the other sector-specific programs that Access offers?
Firstly, I did a lot of research on all of the programs that Access was offering. There was one financial services which was very close to my field of work, and I looked at leadership connections as well. I really liked the diversity aspect and the kind of experience people brought into that program, and I thought that'd be a great learning opportunity for me, firstly from the participants itself, because they were so well versed in their own fields, and they had leadership experiences in their countries, and I was learning a lot from my peers, and also the exposure that I got through that program with about the industry, about the workplace culture. So those two were the key things that made me choose Leadership Connections, and I really benefited from that a lot. And I would recommend that to anybody who's coming here as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we are towards the end of our webinar. Is there anything that you ladies want to say before we move on?
There's a lot to say, isn't it?
How about we start with Vivian and Catherine as the seniors here?
Sylvie, maybe I can suggest everybody say one or two sentences, just the final advice or tips for our job seekers, especially women in Canada. Maybe I can start with Catherine.
Sure. So I would say my 2 cents will be just know your worth. I think confidence really come from knowing that, hey, I'm good enough and I know my skill set. And then even going back to the question on the age, you can flip it around and be like, hey, I am older maybe than the average person looking for a job, but that gives me the experience that the other people don't have. So it's all about mindset, saying that positive mindset, and then everything else will come. And then when it comes to networking, I don't have the newcomer experience, but one thing that I have been using in terms of finding mentors or even meeting new people, it's very common here in Canada. It's called meetup.com. So there are many groups that you can go out and meet people, and then you can pick the specific even interest, activity. And then there are also many groups that target like female leadership, male leadership, financial industry. So that I think that will be a very useful option for networking too.
Thank you, Catherine. And how about you, Suri?
One thing I'll really highlight is it can be intimidating moving and changing the ways things operate in, and just know what your skills are, what you can offer, and do know that there's not everything that suits the Canadian workplace. Just be open to adapting and learning and pushing yourself out of your boundaries. If you have to network, be open to networking, and you learn a lot from it, and you'll benefit from it.
Thanks. And last but not least, Swetha?
Yep. So I have 2 points. One is, I know we are talking about professional advice, but I'll say we need to start from home. Now, I came by myself, but I would say if any of you are moving with spouses or families, ensure that there is appropriate division of labor, because for you to focus on your professional job search or strategies or go and meet people outside, unless you have the mental peace that everything at home is fine, you will not be able to do it. So make sure that your husband, your son, your daughter, all of them are pitching their stuff at home, so that you have that mental bandwidth as well as confidence that things will be fine at home and that you can go out and win the world. So that'll be my first thing, very, very important. The second thing is that one can listen to all the advice they are getting from everywhere, but unless they act on it, nothing really will move. Like, you could have the best of advisors from all over the world, but unless you move yourself, nothing will happen. So please, please, please push yourself out of your comfort zone and act on things that you hear that you think will apply to you.
Thank you. All the amazing points. And a final words from me is do not let yourself stop yourself from pursuing. You know, a lot of barriers are the barriers we put on ourselves. We have that perception that we cannot do this, we cannot do that. Maybe that's too much for me. So that's not what the world thinks about you. So that's just Canada. Coming to Canada, there are a lot of challenges, but we have to admit there are a lot of new amazing opportunities as well. Like what Celeste mentioned, if we can all push ourselves beyond our comfort zone, there are some amazing things that's going to happen in our lives. So we're going to conclude at this point. I'll give the mic back to Sonia.
Thank you, ladies. It was a great webinar, a great discussion, and a lot of the viewers are saying thank you very much. So,
thank you. Happy Women's Day to everyone watching.
Definitely very empowering.
Thank you for joining us.
It was definitely very empowering to see all of you amazing women, you know, moving up the ladder and doing great things. It's truly very inspiring, especially for newcomers to watch who are not here yet. So, you know, just for them to know that, you know, there's so much opportunity here in Canada, and especially at RBC. So, everyone, you know, here's a slide from RBC. If you're interested in getting to know more, you can check out these links over here, and these links will be sent out to you with the recording as well. And here's a little bit more, you know, if you want to get in touch with RBC, you can go to rbc.com/access. Here's a number to call for more information. And if you have any questions about, you know, interviews, resume writing, networking, we have a lot of resources and past webinars and past RBC webinars posted on our website. And for people who are on your way to Canada and you have your pre-arrival status, if you belong to any of these sectors, you can email cec@accessemployment.ca to find out if you're eligible for the program as well. And add us on Instagram. We are all over social media. And to find out what's going on at ACCES, whether it's in-house or online, you know, we post it all over our social media. We are now on Instagram, so please add us and follow us for tips and tricks that we post every other day. And we are on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So whatever's happening online, you know, sometimes we talk about job fairs. The only way to reach out to our people is to post it online. So check out any of these platforms and stay tuned for what's coming up next. And again, thank you, the ladies of RBC. It was an amazing presentation, and it really, really makes my heart feel so good that I started my Women's Day with an amazing webinar today. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
It is our pleasure.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, so you have yourselves a wonderful day ahead, and I wish everyone all over the world a very happy International Women's Day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.